Where did your ayahuasca journey start? And how did that evolve? And what did you learn from it? What was the pain that you were trying to cure with this medicine, right? You weren't just trying to get high. You weren't just trying to see a cool vision and be able to come back to your country and talk about, wow, I saw this and that. I felt the divine. Like, what was it about for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, bringing up the point that who you do that with is very important. It really is very important, in the same way as who you surround yourself with, who your friends are, who you let into your life, who you let influence your mind, right? And especially in these very intimate sessions where you're energetically very permeable, right? Where a lot of things can get to you. It's very important who you do that with. So for me, it started in a setting in the Netherlands. This is where I had my first ayahuasca ceremony in a cabin in the woods during winter. And in that night, we had about, 4 or 5 inches of snow falling. So when I opened the door the next morning, it was like, looked completely different than it was when I entered that cabin.
Wow.
It was wild. It was totally a wild experience. And what was the pain that I was trying to cure? Well, I quit university and I became self-employed. I started my own business. I wanted to help people with confidence, young people who had been dealing with acne or acne scars and confidence issues based on that, because I realized that I wanted to start helping people, become a coach, do live events, and I asked myself, well, what can I confidently help people with? What have I actually overcome? And back then I was 21 years old, and that was the first thing where I realized, okay, there are a lot of people who are 15, 16, 17, and now I'm 21. I'm not obviously a teacher for everybody in that way, but I have learned how to be confident in spite of that, and I felt that I could help people with that. And in retrospect, an incredible business. People are in pain. They pay for the service for that. People really struggle with that. There are lots of them, and a lot of people really need help, not by somebody who is a dermatologist, but by somebody who has been through that. So from all of the business evaluation points of what could be a profitable business, if you look at it from that way, because I knew I wanted to help people, that was not, but I tried to match that with something that I could help people with. So in retrospect, it would have been a beautiful business, but I could not get it done. Even though I had everything in my corner, I had a 6-figure starting capital based on money that I've earned myself and money that my parents and my grandparents laid aside for me for college, which I also had access to. So I had a 6-figure starting capital, half earned, half given. And I knew I was bright. I had good grades in school. I knew that that was an asset that I had, my intelligence, and that I can retain information, that I can write properly and speak properly. And I bought a camera and the whole kind of equipment, and then I was really asking myself, why is it not working? Like, what am I doing wrong? On paper, it should all come together. And then I realized these inner topics that I had to deal with. Basically, the way that I was living my life back then, I was totally isolated because I thought I just had to work even harder when something wasn't working. I tried to force it too much.
Right.
I didn't have any kind of human connections, although I am a natural extrovert and I thrive by being in human connection. And I tried to force it too much, and all of these were inner topics that I did not understand. And then came like some kind of eating disorders on top of that, where I felt completely out of control. My focus was dispersed, so I couldn't actually focus on the work ahead. And that led me to seek out all kinds of help through seminars, through hypnotherapy, to just try to understand, because I had this dream so much of wanting to do something on my own. And as I said, I had the money, I had the intelligence, I had a laptop and a good camera, and I had coaches who could help me, but like, I was standing in my way, and I did not figure out what the problem was. I didn't see it in my limited view back then. And so that led me eventually to ayahuasca, after having quit 2 or 3 projects like that should have worked on paper. I was like, man, what the heck is wrong with me? And obviously that's a horrible question to ask, because you come up with an answer. If you ask what's wrong with me, you find an answer. But it's not the answer that you're seeking. You got to realize it's the wrong question to ask. The answer, what's wrong with you, you find an answer, but you shouldn't be answering this question in the first place, because it leads you down a whole different path. And so yeah, in the first ceremony, I had this very, very intense kind of two-sided ceremony, where in the first half of the ceremony I felt this kind of shell of ice around my heart, what I was living in before, this kind of self-hatred and being so cold inside, because I was like isolating myself so much, and I was just trying like to push even harder when something wouldn't work, and I would not. I just would not talk to people about what was going on. That was making everything very, very cold. So I was going back through that, and for the first time feeling that, because I was living in it, I didn't see it. And in this ceremony, I saw it and I felt it for the first time. And then the second half of the ceremony, I was just uncontrollably laughing, like and I remember, and that's how I end, because I've been speaking for like a good 5 minutes already. I remember the person that I was doing that with, an American, with very, very deep voice, like huge guy, like coming up to me and placing his hand on my, he's like, brother, learn to stay in your, practice staying in your center. Because I was like, for the first half, I was like, going through my suffering, and the second half, I was like, my life is so great, in this kind of manic kind of cycle that I was living in my life, where it was like, when things were working, I was like a pit bull, didn't want to let go of that, and just trying to force it into existence, and when things wouldn't work, I would like hate myself so viciously. And he was like, brother, practice staying in your center. Because it was like, it was such a ridiculous manifestation of the pattern that I was living out, where I was for the first time really seeing like these patterns. And it was a massively impactful ceremony for me, that first experience.